right, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order now that we have a quorum present. It is 5:38 on this Tuesday, August 16th, 2016. Call to order and welcome everybody for the the work session. We have a quorum present. We have Trustee Clayton, myself, Trustee Benyon, Trustee Bustos. We also have our superintendent, Dr. Holmes, here with us, as well as our board clerk, Ms. Amanda LaChance, and Ms. Val Siemens, our financial manager. Are there any additions, corrections, modifications to the current agenda? No. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed and begin the discussion for the Blaine County School District Treasurer job descriptions.
Thank you.
And I'll go ahead and open that up for discussion.
Well, I'd like to, start off. I feel that having a discussion about the treasurer position in a possible separation of it from the business manager's duty or the finance manager's duties is something that behooves us, considering I feel like before there was a conflict of interest, but that Mr. Chatterton, during his tenure here, did an exceptional job. But I do feel that, we need to have more controls in place, and having a separation of the treasurer from the business manager position or finance manager position is something that we should definitely look into. I don't know everybody else's feelings or thoughts on that.
Well, could you, when you say there is a conflict of interest within the structure that currently exists, could you define that conflict of interest?
I think it's more about the decisions that are made, and especially the controls that are in place. I guess I would like to have a clear understanding of the controls, as far as deposits, who controls deposits, who controls posting of checks. I know that we do have some controls in place. Maybe Val can elaborate on the specific controls that we have, but I feel that having this separation is something, and having a separate set of eyes to look upon our budget.
Regarding controls, what controls are of concern? Like, have there been misdeeds, or have there been inappropriate actions, or?
As I said, I don't know if you did not listen to what I just said. I said Mr. Chatterton had a great tenure here, and there was no concerns. But I think this is a great time to look at that and see a separation.
I actually would say there was great concern, because I think we spent nearly a year debating this separation prior to this conversation, which is, I think, why we're having this conversation right now, for clarity about what the role truly is, right? Like, from my experience, it was a relatively heated debate, actually, of segregation of duties for at least probably last year, right? With Mr. Chatterton, and also with some, at least from the public commentary, some concern about, how he was managing both of those roles, and was it fairly done. And then as I read the code on what the treasurer's responsibility is and what our school district policy is, the role of the treasurer really doesn't seem to me to be one of financial oversight. I think the role of financial oversight falls with the Board of Trustees as the fiduciaries of the school district. By putting in another layer of oversight, I think we actually are absolving ourselves of a high degree of responsibility that we have signed up for and sworn ourselves to do as public officials of the school district. And I think it actually complicates things rather than clarifies things. So the way this moves forward is, I'm seeing the role of treasurer, from what I read, as basically the person who is responsible for taking the state funds and making sure that they're deposited correctly. When we start looking at segregation of duty, it becomes more of like a business manager and a CFO or some types of roles like that internally. And I think given where we are already somewhat under fire on our size and scope of administrative roles and duties, we're creating more administrative roles and duties that may not necessarily be impacting the students. So that's where I am standing with this right now.
Just for clarification purposes, Val, could you please speak to the separation of duties and the controls that we do have in place for
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
for those positions?
I would be happy to. So currently, the way our office operates is we have one person that receives all the money in. So right now, it's Susan Niffen because there's only 2 of us in our department. So we actually keep a spreadsheet, and we record every type of money that comes in on a monthly basis. So we keep a laundry list of it, basically. So then that money then comes to me, and I make the deposit, and I take that to the bank. If I could make a suggestion, I would welcome any one of the board members to come in and do spot checks on that, because Susan's got the spreadsheet, so she's receiving all of the money in, and you can take that and you can go to our deposit reports and you can cross-check and make sure that all those deposits are showing up on that report. So that's how we have created separation of duty, and that was at the suggestion of our auditor, and they do double-check that with us when they come and do the audit.
Okay. Is there anything besides the spreadsheet that says, like, it says that you modified the spreadsheet, or is there any actual, like, I'm trying to look for the words here,
I
that
think I
actually
know-
post, you know, who is making that modification or making that post and what exactly it is?
Well, we have made a change this year. It's a recent change, and we're in the middle of transitioning, but we are going to start using our Skyward accounts receivable module. So we actually have a module in our accounting software.
Okay.
We have not used it in the past. We did training this summer. And so what that module will do is it's more for our billing. So like the community campus billings and our catering through our food service, things like our preschool, all of that will run through that accounts receivable. So that will add another layer to being able to monitor the cash flow that's coming in. It's not going to capture everything because we have things like if a teacher loses their badge and they need it replaced, it's a $10 fee. That's not going to go through our accounts receivable module, but that would be on the spreadsheet. So that would give us a couple of points to look at, and then the deposits tie back to that.
Okay. But there's nothing that says, you know, that Val modified the spreadsheet on such date to post.
I think that would be more of a technology question.
Okay. No? Nobody has an answer yet. Okay.
I mean, doesn't Excel keep track? I don't know.
Let's look at the Teresa balance. Yeah, most technology programs have a backside where you can see who used it.
Well, I just know, like, you know, like on the shared PowerPoint or some of the documents that we've received, you could see who's made those modifications. And I'm just like wondering if that's like a program that's being used.
I know we can tell who logged into Skyward and what modules, what day and what time. What can we tell that they have done inside that module? I don't know. I don't know where Teresa is. Do you know them?
She was going to be here.
I mean, do you know anything about Skyward? I'm asking the wrong
So
person.
Skyward will track it, and Google Docs will track it, but the Office documents you'll see who modified it last.
Okay.
We
So,
don't have
If we needed to
a
do
revision
4
control.
entries, that's what you're saying.
yeah. So, like, it's in Google Docs, the spreadsheet.
It's in Excel, but we could,
Excel tracks
at your recommendation, we could easily put that into a Google Doc.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel
Yeah.
that, you know, that's a good way because we could all see, like, if we're modifying documents, we could see who commented on those, you know, and I just feel like that's just provides that. Okay, Val went in and posted that, and then Susan went in and posted whatever she needed to post. So
Yeah.
we could see those and just say, those were those modifications that were changed.
Actually, we shouldn't see Val posting anything in there if
Right,
they've got
I'm
it
trying not to
separated.
post anything in there. So I'm
Okay.
staying out of it, and Susan is maintaining control of that right now. But I agree with you, we could easily put that into Google Docs so that we've got another layer of monitoring on it.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like if you're already in that program, just moving it over to Google Docs and seeing those modifications.
I'm kind of an Excel gal, so that's why.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Or Excel is in Google Docs.
It's
I'm not
not.
super
No,
familiar
no,
with
no,
that.
no.
so-
I know, but it would be easy to put that in there.
Yeah.
As I'm reading the code, there's a couple things that just jump out to me right off the get-go, that the treasurer shall have duties as the board may prescribe, but that the treasurer shall account, reading in the last paragraph, for the deposit of all monies of the district in accordance with the provision of the public depository law. And so basically, from my understanding, the bare minimum that the treasurer should do, is required by law to do, is in charge of the deposits of the monies, keeping track of those monies deposited. The board can give them other responsibilities above and beyond that. And I guess that would be my question that I'm struggling with, is what other responsibilities, since we have controls in place, would we be looking at prescribing the treasurer so as to not give away our responsibility? I've had a conversation with Larry Schoen in the past when we were talking about bringing on the financial committee, and that was one of his main concerns of that new policy being crafted, was we as members of the Board of Trustees, that is our elected duty. That is what we are elected to do, is to be the fiduciaries of this district, to make sure that the money is spent the best way possible for our kids, our constituency, for our county. And one of his main concerns was, by giving away too much authority of that to another person, kind of negating our own responsibility of what we're actually elected to do. So, I guess my question is, like I said, what other duties are we looking at assigning the treasurer position? And do any of those additional duties make sense to make the separation? Because in my mind, if it's just about making sure the deposits happen correctly, I don't think we need to split it.
Do we have the complete job description for the treasurer? Because it says for our policy that it's available at the district office.
There is no job description for the treasurer. You have a job description in there for the finance manager, but that's,
And the roles of treasurer are buried inside the finance manager's job description, I would imagine. You know, in reviewing the document that you provided us from there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah, Ms.
7, 8,
LaChance,
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 districts in Idaho, other districts. Overwhelmingly, there are pretty much no divisions of treasurer and finance. I think there's one that actually does have a treasurer,
a paid treasurer, yes.
a paid treasurer, and then the others are pretty much board members who have decided that they would take on the role of treasurer. I'm particularly not interested in being that individual. I'm liking the way things currently stand right now. So, you know, looking at our peer review, it seems that its system is working pretty well across the state, as what we have as a practice.
Yeah. And that research comes from what Ms. LaChance did last winter when the Finance Committee was discussing whether this should be separate or not.
Ms. LaChance.
When I was doing this research, one of the things that I found is that if the treasurer and the business manager were the same person, they did not have separate job descriptions. It was the same job description for both roles.
Thanks for putting this together, Amanda. Helpful.
Could you send me a copy of the job descriptions that they, because I see that you had a question here that says, would they please send us our job descriptions for their treasurer position? Yeah, I'll send them to the board. Okay. I think maybe we could just table this discussion a little bit more since, and it's something that, if we could just do before another board meeting, like if we tabled it to before another board meeting to have some further discussion on it.
Yeah, I'll just keep in mind that we have approved until September board meeting. Val Siemens is our business manager treasurer, and we can run that way up until that September board meeting. And then if we're going to continue, or a decision has to be made basically at that September board meeting.
Okay.
Right, because this was a decision we actually didn't render.
Correct.
When we were supposed to do our annual meeting, correct?
Correct.
So we put this on hold to have this meeting, so we probably do need some
The motion,
expedite the resolution of this.
the motion was amended that you would have this discussion before September. Ergo, here you are having the discussion.
We did it.
And like I said, I go back to, in the future, those guiding questions for that discussion is, what other responsibilities are we looking at adding to that treasurer position? And if none,
Well,
to me it
maybe
doesn't make
we
sense.
could just have it more clearly spelled out, because per our policy, it just says that it serves at the direction, control, and pleasure of the board. And if we could just have something spelled out in our policy, whether it's just making the deposits or whatever else we can agree upon, just having it in the policy.
Clear definition.
Clear
Clear
definition of what those
I think that's
responsibilities
good.
is. And I agree. I think that
That's good.
is only right of us to do.
Okay.
I know we've done a lot of work on financial policies throughout this year, and we have quite a bit left to do this year. But I think that's definitely something that we as a board can take on and work with our policy committee to help us out with, and go from there.
Okay.
So,
I think that's good.
with that, if there's no further discussion, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn this portion of the evening's agenda.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 5:56, and we'll have a 4-minute break and jump right back into our regular board meeting.
We could already copy this email, right?
All right, after a short break, it's straight up 6 o'clock. I'd like to go ahead and call this regular August 16th, 2016 meeting of the Board of Trustees, Blaine County School District number 61. Call it to order. We do have a quorum present. We have myself, Trustee Benyon, Trustee Clayton, Trustee Bustos here with us. Trustee Corker, unfortunately, will not be able to participate with us. There's complications in her travel schedule and will not be able to participate via phone as initially anticipated. We also have our superintendent, Dr. Holmes, our board clerk, Ms. Amanda Chance. We have our assistant superintendent, Mr. John Blackman, and our finance manager, Ms. Val Siemens, attending with us. We also, I believe, out in the foyer, have Ms. Olga Masa Santos, if anyone would like Spanish interpretation. Por favor, si alguien necesita interpretaciones a español, por favor, vese a Olga Masa Santos, que está allá en el pasillo. All right, if you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Are there any additions, corrections, modifications, or substitutions to the current agenda? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move forward with the next item and turn the time over to Dr. Holmes for the accolades.
We have one accolade tonight, and this is Amber appearing here? There she is. All right. Amber, if you'll just stand there and let us, it's fine. We're going to just try to honor you, not embarrass you too much. This says, Dear Board of Trustees, we are fortunate to have many local businesses that support our schools throughout the sponsorship of events, athletics, and programs. One local business that has quietly contributed for the past 4 years is the Metropolitan Theaters, or Big Wood 4 Cinemas on Main Street in Haley. Our local movie theater has partnered with local schools to showcase student art for the past 4 years. We often hear that the arts are important, but the movie theater makes this clear to everyone and walks their talk by their commitment to display student art for the entire community to see when they visit the movie theater. Visitors cannot miss the display as it lines the entryway and faces the windows toward Main Street. The public is treated to a great displays of paintings, drawings, collages, and mixed media from all grade levels and all schools in Blaine County. This partnership is coordinated by Wood River High School art teacher Betty Irvin. Schools that participate include Alturas, Bellevue, Haley, Hemingway, Wood River Middle School, Wood River High School, and Cary School, as well as the Community School, Sage School, and Syringa School have also participated in the past. Exhibits are hung at the beginning of each month, so there are 12 shows a year. Betty schedules the exhibits, helps hang the art, maintains the display boards, which need to be repaired or repainted periodically. The Blaine County Education Foundation has assisted with grant funds for the purchase of the display boards, paint, hanging tabs, and other supplies. A prior manager of the theater constructed all of the easels and was key in bringing the project to fruition. I always hear positive comments from other moviegoers as I wait to buy tickets. I believe that the public enjoys seeing such wonderful examples of student learning and creativity. I appreciate that the art represents all the schools in Blaine County and that there are explanations that accompany the projects, helping the public understand the goals and learning outcomes of each art project. Thank you, Big Wood 4 Cinemas and Metropolitan Theaters, for making the arts central to our lives and giving us daily reminders of how important the arts are for all of us. And thank you, Betty Irvin, for coordinating this wonderful endeavor. Respectfully, Heather Crocker. So Amber, as our representative for Big Wood 4 Cinemas, thank you so much for all you do to help share
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll go ahead and jump into public comment, and we have quite a few. I've got some for the first session and as well as one for the second session. If you would like to wait for the second session, please just let me know as I call your name. First, we have Miss Teresa Gregory.
Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for working overtime this past month to bring about the gender inclusion policy to our meeting tonight. After months of work on the part of LGBT and ally students, parents, school staff, counselors, and administration, and the many opportunities to gather for public comment at both the policy committee and trustee meeting level, I believe this policy is ready for your approval. Policy 503.4 on interscholastic competition was revised in December of 2015. This policy pertained to what conceivably will be a small number of students who are transgendered and their ability to participate in sports according to the gender that they identify with. This new policy, 502.12, will umbrella many more students in our school district, allowing them and our faculty and staff to more fully embrace the needs for full inclusion into all parts of school life and academics. The students look forward to participating in discussions this fall, where together we will create procedures that will bring about the aim of this policy. When we create and revise policies, we do it for the well-being of our school family and community. We do this meaningful work to create an environment where each member of our school family is cared for. New and revised policies engage our sense of creativity, push us to think and imagine differently, take into consideration new approaches and understandings, and by their visible nature, allow others to see the good work we are trying to accomplish. It is in your hands now. We hope you will pass the gender inclusion policy before you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, we have Dave Hatchula. Hatula? Sorry.
I'm Dave Hatula, 201 South 9th, Bellevue, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members, for allowing this public comment section. I'll start out by saying I identify as a middle-aged heterosexual Christian male, which may put me in the minority already here. So, but you know, through this whole thing, I sat on a government board of a town just south of here, and you know, these policies have run through all the cities consistently, and you know, I am not opposed to equal rights as citizens of this country, no matter race, sex, whatever you identify with. But frankly, I'm stunned by this policy being proposed to our school district. And mainly because I'm a father of two students, one middle-aged student, or one middle school student and one elementary school student in this district. And I think what this does is, yes, there are rights. Minors have rights, but minors also are neglected some rights. Minors are required to go to school till a certain age. And I think what this is a violation of parents' rights. This is based on a subjectivity of minors' feelings. You know, it may be whatever you want to term it as, a deeply held belief, call it what you may, but still, it's based on what they identify with, which, frankly, it's like who's going to regulate what that is, how that is. There's got to be a whole other spectrum of definition to that. Frankly, you know, this policy is just so broad and reckless that I really, like I said, I'm really stunned by that. So, and I'd like to ask everybody, it's like under any circumstance, allowing a male or a female to expose themselves to members of the opposite sex on a minor level, who thinks that's a good idea? I mean, this country has been secularized so much that, where does this lead to? So I think this is very, very dangerous territory, and there's lots of flaws, and to include the employees and school employees, and it's like to regulate this just seems just mind-boggling to me of how this can be really done without getting into a major lawsuit. And I would beseech you to stand on your principles if this goes to court and not on some horrific
Thank you for your comment.
incident that would happen.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, Tony Hatula, so I don't butcher it.
Yeah, Hatala.
Hatula.
I'm Tony Hutula, 201 South 9th Street in Bellevue. Thank you for your time and having this public comment in regards to the gender inclusion policy. Like my husband who just spoke before me, we do have 2 children in the school district, and I myself graduated from the school district. Our oldest daughter is in middle school, and she is currently an athlete for Wood River. I am appalled that the school district is asking me as a parent to allow my daughter to accept the fact to be exposed to the member of the opposite sex at the age of 13 without asking her. I do not feel that this has even been approached. We are concerned about the feelings and the emotions of those who are going through this change or going through this experience, but I do not recall anybody asking my children how they would feel in this situation. And I'll be very upfront with all of you. My 13-year-old is very outspoken, and she is mortified by this. At this age, they're very vulnerable. 13-year-old girls don't even shower in their locker room amongst themselves, let alone being asked to do that amongst members of the opposite sex, whether they feel they are that sex or not, that gender or not. I do feel that bringing this to the table is important. It is important for the rights and equality of all, but I do not feel that this is the resolution, and I do feel that this needs to go back to the drawing board, whether it means the district comes up with more funds to accommodate proper facilities for all parties. If we are going to wipe gender off the table, then we should do it for all. There is a comment in your policy that says if you are uncomfortable, we will make accommodations. So that is telling me my daughter would be segregated and stand out because she does not agree with this. There's other avenues and other resolutions that we can take to have this equal among all parties. And I do not feel that that is addressed currently in this current policy, and that needs to be revisited and brought back to the table. And I ask that this is not a decision that is made this evening and that this is reevaluated. Thank you.
Next up, Ron Brown.
Superintendent and board members, I would like to comment on the transgender policy that has been formed. And I had the opportunity to comment at a previous meeting, and so one of the things I wanted to do was share a letter from another concerned citizen of our county, Jerry Renke, and he says this: We speak for many who wish to express our concern about the safety of students and school activities throughout the school system that are affected by these new standards. While we do understand the need to accept and protect the needs of any minority of students, we cannot do this in a way that places others in an unsafe environment. Human sexuality has always been a big factor in the safety of students, so school systems have always recognized the need to set standards that protect all students from abuse by others. We are concerned about the lack of objective standards throughout these policies. How can we separate opportunists or even abusers from those who are not? Are there reliable standards of evaluation apart from the emotion of the moment? Can we separate objective needs from those who might be merely self-serving or manipulative? We believe that the current sexual standards that keep students separate in intimate situations based on biological sexuality have come from experience and have been honed and passed down through the centuries. To merely dismiss these protections and standards which have proven to be healthy is a mistake that we cannot afford to ignore. We are concerned that the current redefinition of gender apart from biological sexuality introduces the opportunity for abuse with the mixing of sexes in bathrooms, showers, and other intimate environments. Among us are many who believe that human sexuality is an integral part of creation itself, and that the Creator has established laws that help build a strong society. We are not here to impose our standards upon others, but are pleading for proven standards that protect the safety and integrity of everyone. And I just want to say that I and many others in this community are in full agreement with Mr. Rinke's comments. And I would just like to add that regardless of which side you take on this issue, this is not an appropriate time to establish policy, new policy, because this issue is not settled in our state or our country. In spite of the new federal guidelines handed down by the Obama administration, our own governor, Butch Otter, called this federal mandate a vast overreach by the Obama administration, an offensive attempt at social engineering.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Next up, Stephanie Brown.
Stephanie Brown, Haley, Idaho. Thank you so much for allowing me to share tonight. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This direct quote from the United States of America's Declaration of Independence declares that Creator God has blessed all mankind with equality. This equality should ensure that we all have value and dignity. The proposed policy on gender inclusion strips all students of their right to privacy, which in turn threatens their dignity. The proposed policy devalues students by saying their unclothed bodies can be viewed by the opposite sex, when in truth we should value and respect modesty and the right to privacy. Our students and teachers have a right, according to our Declaration of Independence, to this very basic and humane liberty. I respectfully disagree with the proposed policy on gender inclusion.
Next up, Susan Stouffer.
Good evening. My name is Susan Stouffer. I'm a parent of the school district. I have 5 children. I'm the wife of a teacher. We've been in the school district for 17 years, and during that time I have had the opportunity to volunteer in classrooms, go on field trips, be a part of the Disneyland trip. I've spent the bulk of those years, being with kids because I care about kids, and I care about the kids in this community and our next generation. So, as a person with a vested interest in this school district and the next generation, I cannot stay silent on this policy that is going forward with the gender neutrality. I disagree with it. The first sentence of the policy states that all students need a safe school environment to progress educationally. I agree with that. I also agree that there should be no bullying or harassment at our school. I agree with that. However, I believe what is proposed in this policy will not achieve those stated outcomes. Rather, it has the potential to put students at risk by exposing them with privacy issues. I'm not convinced that the logistics and the ramifications of this policy have been fully explored, putting both the students and our schools in a vulnerable situation. If all students are to receive a safe, supportive school environment so that they may progress academically and developmentally, then the rights of the students who do not wish to be gender neutral will be violated under this new policy. This policy forces them to have boys or girls in their private areas where they won't feel safe or supported. Society as a whole should not accommodate for the one and force the others to comply, taking away their rights to feel safe. According to the Alliance Defending Freedom, courts across the country recognize that there is a constitutional right to bodily privacy, to not be viewed unclothed by those of the opposite sex. It's been upheld for children at school, employees at work, and even convicted felons in prison. It doesn't matter whether a male in the girls' bathroom identifies as a male or female. If he is biologically male, his presence immediately violates the bodily privacy rights of every girl forced to share facilities with him. Also, from the Alliance Defending Freedom, forcing students to use the restroom with members of the opposite sex harms all students by violating their right to privacy and making them participate in situations that most adults would object to if they were imposed upon them. Accommodating students struggling with gender confusion by providing them with a single-stall restroom, changing room, or a similar alternative gives them a private location and avoids violating other students' rights. We need a policy that provides a solution while promoting all children's rights to privacy and safety, and at the same time preventing schools from being vulnerable to liability. And I would just recommend, I've given this to Amanda, a policy to promote safety for all, called the Student Physical Privacy Policy, also from Alliance Defending Freedom. Just including some of the language that they have would enhance and protect our students and our schools.
Next up, Lori Morales.
Hi, I'm Lori Morales, and I am from Haley, Idaho. And thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am a guest teacher in the district, and so I get a chance to work with kids from kindergarten to 12th grade and go to the different schools, and I enjoy it very much. I value the children that I work with and the children that I see, and I have seen kids who struggle. My heart goes out to them, and I value who they are. And I just, I feel that this is not ready to go through. This policy is not where it needs to be. And so I'm here to say that I'm not in favor of the policy this time. Thank you.
All right, next up, Ellen Mandeville.
My name is Ellen Mandeville. I live in Haley, Idaho, and I'm here representing my family who are here. My husband, Todd, my daughter, Jessica, who's entering high school this year, my son, David, who's entering middle school this year. We are all concerned about this policy. We've been in this district. We've lived here longer than we've had students in the schools. My daughter started here in kindergarten. She's now going to high school. We have loved these schools. We so appreciate this school district. As others have spoken, I do not think this policy is ready for adoption. I'm speaking on the gender inclusion policy, draft policy 502.12. On a purely practical note, what will this cost the district? If such a policy is obviously written for all students, on school trips, under the section titled School Trips, it says any student with a need or desire for increased privacy or for safety reasons may be assigned a private sleeping room. Under the section titled Access to Restrooms, Locker Rooms, and Changing Rooms, the draft states any student who has a need or desire for increased privacy, regardless of the underlying reason, shall be provided to access to reasonable alternatives. If this draft policy is adopted, how many gender-conforming students will feel unsafe for the reasons other speakers have mentioned? How many will request a private sleeping room on overnight trips? How many will request reasonable alternatives to restrooms, locker rooms, and changing rooms? I mean, it sounds like a lot of costs. As Mrs. Stouffer stated, with the lawsuits around the country, I wonder what it will cost in lawsuits and attorney fees. I also wonder about gender non-conforming visitors to our schools. Will gender non-conforming adults visiting school buildings have access to the bathroom or locker room of their stated gender expression? What new risks to the student population might be introduced by the adoption of this policy? Have they been considered at length by the trustees?
Next up, Abby and Jesse Renella.
I'm a former Blaine County School District student that started out my kindergarten year at Bellevue Elementary School, and I graduated from Wood River High School. I'm also a former teacher with this school district. But above all, I'm a mother, and I'm a member of this community. I'm here today to share my great concerns and disagreements with this transgender policy. There are many reasons I disagree with this policy, but I will focus on just one tonight. I want to believe that the people involved in making this policy, and you, have a true concern with, as the policy states, providing a safe and supportive school environment to all students. My concern is that with this policy, while working to provide that environment for some students, will be directly opposing its own goal for many more. The New York Times stated that the number of transgenders under the age of 18 comes in at less than 1% of adolescents, less than 1%. I want to bring up another group of students that attend Blaine County School District that have been overlooked, that are also promised the same safe and supportive school environment. These are the children that have experienced sexual trauma in their lives. According to research done by the Centers of Disease Control, 25% of girls will be sexually abused by the age of 18. When I read that statistic, well, I first wanted to vomit, and then I could not help but think of the 25% of girls that have been sexually abused by a friend or a family member or a stranger and have to walk into a bathroom or locker room expecting a safe and private place and coming face to face with a man. Can you imagine the terror that those students will have to face? Where is their support, and how are you making the 25% of children that have experienced sexual trauma feel safe and supported by putting someone of the assigned opposite sex in their bathrooms, as you have called it, locker rooms and hotel rooms? Yes, you say you will allow them to use private facilities if they ask, but often these girls are terrified to speak out against their own predators. Do you really think that they're going to speak out against this policy amongst their peers? I do not think in any way that this would be, as you have written, a safe and supportive environment for them. This policy is not limited to school hours and is not limited to age discrimination. A senior that is 18 can walk right in, pull his pants down in the same restroom that a 6-year-old little girl is in. I want to believe that you stand behind your statement, and that you do want to provide a safe and supportive school environment to our students. I really want to believe that you believe that. But this policy is setting a very unsafe and unsupportive environment for so many, and I fear that you have not taken into full account how this policy would affect the entire population of students, but rather you have looked at the less than 1%. If you are telling the community that you serve that you're going to provide a safe and supportive environment to our children, then I suggest you stand behind that statement and vote no on this policy.
All right, next up, Andy Parnes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Andy Parnes. I live in Starweather Drive in Blaine County. First of all, let me just say that I want to reiterate my statement last month in favor of the gender-neutral policy. So I want to state that first, but I haven't come here to talk about that in specific detail because I talked about it last time. It said the superintendent has recommended that administration compensation not be reduced. As a board, you cannot permit the administrators to set their own salaries without conducting your own due diligence on the issue. You cannot blindly accept the information from the superintendent. Would the board accept a similar proposal from the teachers without conducting your own independent research? Promises were made by several board members, including Trustee Clayton, that the issue of administration costs would be considered for a source of savings closely this coming year. I am not saying that the results contained in the superintendent's letter are accurate or inaccurate. Whether individual salaries are commensurate with other districts or not is only one part of the equation. If savings cannot be made by reducing individual salaries and benefits, which I believe that they can be, maybe it is time for the district to reduce the size of the administration as another means of cutting costs. This board has a responsibility to conduct an independent analysis of administrative costs and not rely solely on these same administrators who obviously have a conflict of interest to protect their own salaries and benefits. As was indicated at past meetings by members of the administration, they can, quote, bargain with the board. But they should not be able to bargain with themselves as the only source of information. The board has a fiduciary duty to its stakeholders to conduct an independent analysis. Thank you for your hard work for our children. Thank you.
All right, next up, Amber Piranen.
Watching the gender evolution of my child has not been difficult for me. I easily love my child. I don't find it necessary to persuade my child's body, mind, and heart. I have no need to question my child's feelings. It isn't natural to morph our instincts. Nature controls these impulses. Nurture is what's accepting them. I've nurtured the nature of my child, but I honestly don't want to be an advocate for him. That will continue to expose him, draw attention to his name, his anatomy, and his nature. Criminals deserve to have their rights questioned, limited, and labeled, not our children. These are pronouns: clothing, perspective, and anatomy. I understand the uneasiness of sex identity. A transgender boy uses the boys' restroom and is confronted by a peer who has been made aware of the boy's transition. A conversation is shared by both boys at home. A girl was in the boys' bathroom today. Johnny said I wasn't a boy. Reverse the scenario. A trans boy is forced to use the girl's bathroom and is confronted by a female peer who sees and knows him as a boy. A conversation is shared at home. A boy was in the girls' bathroom with me. I had to use the girls' bathroom today, and I wanted to die. Gender identity, just as sex, drugs, crime, death, money, health, politics, and religion, can all be difficult and complicated subject matter. Complex isn't something that's wrong or unnatural. Nature and evolution is bigger than our comfort zone. Not everything can be broken down by textbook laws, rights, and wrongs. I shouldn't be fighting for my child's rights. He hasn't done anything wrong. Love and acceptance doesn't take research, documents, and lawyers. It's unjust when an innocent child has to fight so hard to be accepted.
Next up, Pamela Plowman.
Thank you for taking my comment tonight. My name is Pamela Plowman, 111 East Myrtle Street in Haley. Just a side comment on the gender identity issue. I'm not here to talk about that tonight, but it seems like when there's so much controversy that delay is good. Delay is good. So I think it needs to be greater consideration, and perhaps in the interim, children can be allowed to use private restrooms, a teacher's bathroom, whatever, because this is a big deal. It's really important. So anyway, tonight, this is what I have to say for tonight. Tonight, our superintendent will be proposing to you recommendations about future administrative salaries and benefits. I've reviewed what she has to say in the agenda documents and am surprised that she is essentially recommending little or no change to administrative compensation. From my point of view, these recommendations ignore the fact that over the past 20 years, BCSD administrators have received enormous salary increases. During that period, the cost of living rose 55%, while BCSD administrative salaries rose much more. I have created an illustrative chart to see this all in detail, which I have sent to you and to the board clerk for inclusion in the minutes. You will see that these pay raises to administrators range from 175% to 400%, with the average being 280%. This in comparison to the cost of living index of 55%. The accounting manager's salary quadrupled, and there was a tripling of the salary for the treasurer business manager, the building and grounds director, and the human resources administrative assistant. Translated into simple English, 12 BCSD administrators are now earning six-figure salaries, when not even the superintendent had a six-figure salary when this 20-year period began. His salary at that time was $88,000. According to the day rate calculations provided in the superintendent's presentation, Blaine County School District administrators make around $500 a day. I'm sure that a single day's salary for a BCSD administrator would be considered a godsend to the 40% of families qualifying for free and reduced lunches, families that pay taxes in this district. Please keep in mind as you contemplate the upcoming administrative salary negotiations. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Next up, Barbara Browning.
A little show and tell.
Thank you.
Amanda, did you want to take a copy of the email? I'm Barbara Browning, 738 Paintbrush Lane, Blaine County. In the agenda for tonight's meeting, Superintendent Holmes included a lot of numbers on administration salaries, and she included a daily rate. However, I looked at the BCSD website and the sheet prepared for Cami Bustos' town hall meeting and discovered some different numbers. So I'd like to read you some of what I discovered. The superintendent, counting salary and all retirement benefits fully paid by the school district, makes $221,000 and change per year. For 246 days of work, that comes to $899 a day. The assistant superintendent, salary and retirement, makes $183,480 for a daily rate of $746. Wood River High School principal, a daily rate of $717. Wood River Middle School principal, a daily rate of $808. The Hemingway principal, daily, $786. I could go on and on. The numbers you've been presented do not tell the full story. And these numbers I just gave you do not include fully paid health insurance, vision, dental, life insurance, disability insurance. Some employees, administrators, receive a free car. They all receive a free cell phone. All receive free electronic devices. All of these things contribute to the cost. What you received in your agenda does not show the full picture at all. Please do not even consider leaving the administration compensation at this ridiculously high level. Thank you.
Next up, Julie Carney.
Hi, my name is Julie Carney, and I live 313 East Myrtle Street in Haley. And I'm here as a parent, as a co-facilitator of our school's Gay Straight Alliance, and also as a parent of students in the school district and as a graduate of Wood River High School. I'm writing to encourage all of you to place a vote in favor of the passage of the Health and Safety Policy number 50212. It's the gender inclusive policy. And one thing I want to mention is this is a policy, it's not procedures. So passing this policy, we're not delineating exactly how it's going to be done. We're just opening the door for these things to happen. So I'm aware one of the concerns about this policy centers around the use of school restroom and blocker facilities. The wording of the policy addresses the needs for privacy and safety of all students while also supporting the right of all students to use facilities that match their gender identity or gender expression that is consistently asserted at school. No student will be forced to use a restaurant room or locker facility where their privacy or safety is at risk due to the gender identity or expression of any other student. Fear of others who are unlike ourselves is a natural human response rooted in our instinctual need for safety by establishing conformity and control in our environment. As a nation, we have consistently fought the urge to react out of such primal fears. We have not allowed them to overshadow the broader picture of such basic human rights as having equal and fair access to a safe and healthy educational environment. This policy does not call for special treatment for any students. The policy paves the way for all students to be respected and treated equally in the school environment. No matter what the students' gender identities are, the focus of attention is maintaining a safe and inclusive school environment as well as at school-related functions, ensuring access for all students' educational opportunities and the chance to engage in all the related activities for growth that the high school experience offers, and to reassure students that they can do this openly as who they are by their own definition, not hiding themselves in response to fears that arise as we all learn to recognize and honor people's differences. Lastly, any type of change can be a challenge. The great news for us is that many school districts, both large and small, rural and urban, have successfully met the challenging a challenge of including all students of every gender identity and expression into their communities of learning. We have so many opportunities for education and training of our staff, students, and community to help open the doors of communication and unity and to assist us in developing a sense of inclusion for our LGBTQ+ students in the learning environment while continuing to provide this sense of inclusion for our non-LGBT+ students. And I just want to point out that with sexual abuse, the sexual abuser is not, in many cases, the abuser is of the same sex. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, Irma Regle.
Hi, everyone. My point is take the balance. This is more aggressive for teenagers. Is more when starting more freedom, they can later no have a stop. I know according to change the bathrooms, I still have kids in the school. And this is no, I talk for my kids. It's not well. This is not a balance, and the beginning, that everything is that respectful. And for me, it's not religion, it's God, and He can give the balance to us. Because I can't belong to God, I need return to God. If you don't have fear for God, I don't have fear for my neighbor or for anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Unless there's been any more come in, that's all that I've received for the first session. So we will go ahead and move forward with the agenda now and turn the time over to Dr. Holmes for the superintendent report.
Okay, thank you. First thing is I just want to share some good news. We have been, the auditing process has started, so we've been looking at numbers and everything else like that. And in your folders tonight, you have a comparison of last year's budget to this year's budget. And oftentimes I know it is difficult for members of our community to compare because there's multiple budgets that are working at the district level and multiple budgets that are working at the school level. So pulled together those services that might be considered district office, not touching kids every day, whatever connotation you want to put with it. Took that right out of the budget summary at the back there and compared last year's budget to this year's budget. And you will see that in those central office services such as district administration, which would be the superintendent, the assistant sup, business operations, HR, and finance. Also under district administration is translation services, communication, board clerk, those kinds of things. Central service program, which is basically our technology, and instructional improvement program, which is data and curriculum type of things. You'll see that we have a reduction in the budget of a little over $900,000 from last year. So I wanted to make it very clear that there has been a significant decrease in this last year's budget in regards to administration. Direct student services, the folks that are touching kids every day, elementary, secondary, alternative, exceptional child programs, gifted and talented, attendance and guidance, those additional services such as nurses and social workers, and then school administrators. And you'll see that that budget is almost the same as last year, despite the fact that we did also have reductions in supply budgets for all of those various areas as we balanced our budget this past year. But the piece that I really want you to see is last year, our general fund budget, when you divide it by the number of kids we had enrolled, our cost was $16.5, rounded up by $2, per student. Our cost for this year, if our enrollment comes in around where we're estimating it will come in at, will be $15,737. So that is a reduction of $761 per student. And that reduction has not come out, by and large, has not come out of the dollars that are directly in the schools. So I thought that was some good news and wanted to share it with you as we get ready to go into this conversation about competitive employee compensation. You passed a motion earlier this year to negotiate with administrators in October, which is not something you've done previously. So that excludes me. I'm not allowed to be a part of that group. So that's why I've been working on this instead of letting Mr. Blackman, who this normally would fall under his duties. And so I wanted to have a look at how are we in having competitive compensation so that we are able to attract the very best classified, certified, and administrators to our district. 2 years ago, we created a classified salary scale, and at that time we did a lot of looking at, are we paying the wages that is going to snag us the best people in technology and in the trades as we keep our buildings up, and in our administrative assistants and those kinds of things. And actually made some changes there so that we were competitive in all areas. There were areas where we were competitive and areas where we were not. And that salary schedule allowed us to do, the creation of that salary schedule allowed us to do that. So then I also wanted to look at teachers and administrators, and are we competitive there? And we keep bringing back to you, comparing ourselves to these 9 other districts in Idaho. And I want to make sure you really understand why we keep looking at those other 9 districts. They are districts that are in the same size as us as far as student population. They are districts that the State Department of Education compares us to because they are the same size as us. So they have a lot of the same opportunities and constraints. The vast majority of districts in Idaho have less than 1,000 kids. So comparing ourselves to the average across the state of Idaho really ends up comparing us to a lot of little small, tiny districts. Or we don't want to compare ourselves to Boise or West Ada, who are on the other end of the spectrum either. We want to compare ourselves to other districts that are in the similar type of situations. So that's why we keep going back to those 9 that the state of Idaho uses to compare us for. We also compared ourselves to other mountain town resorts because of the fact that we're a mountain town and we have higher costs of living and all those kinds of things. So we looked at our salary ranges for the Blaine County administrative salaries, and they're all over the place. We definitely need a salary schedule to have some coherence in there. And we also looked at our teacher salary range, and you'll see those ranges are approximately the same. From beginning teacher to highly experienced teacher, from one administrative to the other. We also looked at how we compare to the other resort towns, and we're usually not the bottom, and we're usually not the top. We're usually on the upper part of the curve, but we're not at the top of either one. You'll also see on there that you'll see a table that shows that same thing. And we also started looking around at what do other people in this valley get that are in similar type jobs. So we looked at city administrators and what they are getting. The third page there, you'll see where do our teachers fall. And this is important because the one area that I am most concerned about out of all of these comparisons and are we competitive is our beginning teachers. And a concern that we are not competitive in the area of our beginning teachers. And so where you see where they currently are on the salary scale, you'll see that there's a lot of them who have been with us for some time, and they have an incredible amount of education, and that also signals to us that they are close to retirement or eligible for retirement whenever they want to pull the trigger, and so we had better be ready to be competitive in attracting teachers to replace them that will probably be coming in on the lower end of the salary scale. We looked at benefits. We found that very difficult to look at because of the fact that benefit packages vary so much. So even if we were looking at at health insurance, if we're a district that has a very small deductible versus a district with a very high deductible, it makes huge swings in what the packages are worth and stuff. So we finally just decided, okay, to simplify this, we'll just look at who provides packages that are exactly the same for administrative and teacher, and who provides packages that are different. Because I'm new to Idaho. What does Idaho do? I am used to working in places where there are different compensation packages. And you'll see that we are in the group that provides different packages for the two groups. And that's 40% of that entire group, and then 60% of that entire group provides the same packages. So we're not an anomaly. We're definitely not in the larger majority there, but we're not an anomaly type of thing. So that's all information so that you can give us guidance on how you would want us to go forward in trying to create a salary schedule to try to establish some rhyme or reason to administrative salaries. We also looked at the scope of work there. So you can see how many days are in contracts, the daily rate, the responsibilities. We tried to quantify that to some degree. As is noted there, teachers have protections to some degree for their workday and for additional work that they do after hours. Administrators have no protections, so as you go into negotiations, that you might be thinking about that. That might be something that would be a conversation in those negotiations type of thing. I also asked a couple administrators who I knew had kept track of their hours worked this summer, because unfortunately not every retirement or move or whatever happens to staff happens before administrators go off contract. So they've been off contract 1 week after teachers went off, but they're still filling positions. They still have vacancies coming up type of thing. And so 3 of them did keep very meticulous records this summer of the hours that they worked. And both of the school principals worked at least 2 additional weeks of time off contract, and the assistant principal who kept time worked an additional week of hours off contract. So I'm bringing this all to you tonight. You see my recommendations. We have not declared a financial emergency. It was painful to cut 2.2 of our budget last time. But that's not a financial emergency, even though it's maybe a first for this community to have to make a budget cut. So we have not declared a financial emergency and are not saying that we need to cut all employees in order to make it work. So I'm not recommending, it's your choice, but I'm not recommending that we cut administrator compensation packages. I am asking you to tell me how you want to rearrange it so that it is the way you want it to be, and so that it is more understandable. Right now it's all over the place. And then I am also recommending that we do look at those beginning teacher compensation packages and what can we do, and that would be more of a conversation in the spring as we get close to teacher negotiations. What can we do to be very competitive and attractive in that area, as that area might, that need in that area will probably increase. So that's information so that next month you can have discussion even more thoroughly and give us some guidance. So, questions?
Appreciate the time it took to put that information together for us. Is there any questions or comments by the board at this time?
So the numbers that we're just looking at is based as far as the salaries of the administrative positions and the number of days that they work.
Mm-hmm.
It's their salary divided by the number of days.
Correct. Same thing for teachers. You see the bottom one
Yep.
there is teachers. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But we don't include all the other benefits, whatnot that we give them.
Neither for the teachers nor for the administrators is that in there. You will see back on that benefit table chart of what we, plus some other districts, provide is the way of benefits. In Blaine County School District, we pay the employee contribution for retirement for both teachers and administrators. So the state retirement system, we pay the employer's contribution as we're required to by law, and we also pay the employee's contribution. To administrators, we offer an additional retirement package. We do not offer that to teachers. We pay for the health insurance for the administrators, for the employee, and for family, and we pay for life insurance. For the employees, we pay for health insurance for the employee, and depending on which plan you select as a teacher, if you select the plan with the higher deductible, we pay everything except for $50 of your family plan. You pay $50. If you select the Cadillac plan, then it's more cost to you as the employee. And we pay for life insurance for all of our teachers as well. So that's the difference there in our benefits.
And the blanks that are in here.
We were just not able to get that information. I had Shannon Mazza helping me with this over the summer, and this information's held really tight, and it was during the summertime when we were not always having return calls from people because they weren't working during the summer, but that's what we were trying to gather, and that's what we got. That's what you see filled out.
All right, I would definitely recommend we as a board review this information and come prepared to discuss it at our next meeting in September.
I would say that we are very pressed for time in regard to this.
Yes.
We have committed to administration for FYE 17, and so that's in play. We're currently in that fiscal year. So as this moves forward, the resolution that we came to that we will do negotiation with administration is going to happen in October. I think administration now has taken the stance that they will collectively bargain that through unionization, which means we as an entity, a board of trustees, will now have to be that negotiating entity for the district proper to negotiate with them. So we now have put ourselves in a position where we have to really do some diligence here, and as was mentioned in public comment, probably go out and find some external party to help us rationalize and come up with a strategy and a compensation scale in order to negotiate effectively and properly with the administration. That is pretty much the picture that we have now painted. So I'm feeling that this is pretty concerning and something that really needs to be managed in a very expeditious manner, because that is the nature of the landscape that we have chosen to go down. There's my 2 cents on where this stands right now. So obviously the salary scale is important, I think, and I'm not certain we as a group are capable completely of coming to a full agreement on the creation of that salary schedule. The party we're going to negotiate with really should not be the one to come up with that salary schedule. So this is going to lead us to where we're going to need a third party involved to determine how those chips will fall. So how we want to manage that is something we better talk about quick, and it's probably something we should talk about right now, at least as far as how we want to move that forward. Anybody have some suggestions on that observation?
Well, I do agree that it is pressing and that it is coming up quite quickly. I feel that there is quite a bit to discuss as far as the salary schedule, because obviously we need to set some guidelines. As to what they are, I don't know. I mean, I was looking over it and noticing that there's one of our administrators with 1 year's experience making more money than another administrator who has 9 or 10 years experience. And I just thought that was an interesting discrepancy there. Not sure why it was, as far as why there is a price difference there. But again, as far as hiring an outside company, I don't know if I quite agree with that. I mean, do you have a company in mind?
I don't. I mean, I'm looking at this like, oh, this is a pretty daunting task, right? Like, that's going to require expertise that may be beyond my skill set, quite frankly.
I can tell you from working in districts where administrators had their own association or their own union, and in negotiations, and I am not suggesting this, but this is the way it rolls, oftentimes, is because the superintendent is prohibited from being a part of that, and my negotiations are separate with you, it's the superintendent and the board's attorney that end up with that task.
So anyways, we
And
we could
members of the
collectively
board.
or assign one of us to
Yep.
go out and do the research on that. At my current level of compensation, I'm not exactly crazy about doing that, but I think that we
You
have
get
to come
paid
up
so
with
well,
some.
though.
We have to come up with some strategy. I got my water bottle. Is like we have a big thing to figure out here, significant thing, and we've asked for it, so now we got to deal with it, right? That's my point. And so I'm thinking a third party could probably come up with it. They could crunch numbers much faster than I can. I'm not speaking for Sean or for yourself, but they would be able to do it faster than me. It may cost something, but it's probably money well spent because we've headed down this path, in my opinion. So I think it's something we can even ask staff or admin to look into for us, provide us with 3 options, and then we have to figure out what those options are, or what's the best option, or who could do the best work for us. Because it's of extreme significance. To take it down to detail, if you look at the process that we've been going through to hire a new business manager, we've had a protracted process in order to pull that together. I think we've known about Mike's departure for nearly 9 to 10 months, and we still don't have his seat filled. We are getting close, but we are far apart probably on dollars in regards to that. The current compensation we're offering in this overly rich district is probably 50% less than what our best prospect is currently being paid. So we have a big gap. How are we going to fill that gap? And those are what we need to know is out in the world, right? We may think we're, the fattest, richest thing in the world, and in reality, when I get that data point and I see an exceptional candidate who could probably do great things for us and even conceivably be an upgrade of what we had, we may not be able to afford them, right? So how does that fit into this mix, and what kind of can of worms have we opened? I'm just reiterating that point because we now have a big can that we got to open. And I'm sorry our whole group's not here to have this conversation tonight.
Well, maybe we should just call another special meeting to...
We have to do something
quickly to, figure out what we want to do.
Because we have to have this done by October. Right? We can't go into negotiation with nothing. That's improper.
Imprudent.
We can't do that. So anyways, that's what I see as the landscape, and probably the remedy to the problem is to get on it as soon as possible and find some way to create that schedule that will at least give a framework that will give a starting point for our negotiation process. And then we need to figure out how we manage the negotiation. As Dr. Holmes suggested, we probably need the board lawyer and several of us to be the negotiating party on this side of the table, or do we go into what we do with the certified staff, and do we do the interest-based bargaining? I mean, we have multiple things to figure out that I don't think, fully considered at the outset of this process. Just want to share my thoughts there.
I would agree with a couple points that I think we as a board acted very rash and didn't understand all the complete set of implications when we said that we were going to negotiate with our administrators. That being said, I also agree that we definitely need to have a salary schedule prepared where we as a board are comfortable with, where we as a board feel is more in line. And because otherwise we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit. And I think a little bit of preparation on our part would go a long ways. So I'll leave my comments at that.
What do you guys think we should do to put that together? Do you have ideas in regards to that?
I'd say that we call another meeting just so we're a little bit more prepared for, because I know this is our first time really talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now that we've kind of said, okay, what do we want to do? You know, how do we want to form this? Really have a meeting specifically for that, and not all the other issues that we have on our plate right now. Just because there's big issues on our plate, and this is another big issue that I feel needs a separate meeting.
I'm good with that. I think that's
And calling
proper.
one, you know, in the next couple of weeks, if that works out to everybody's schedule, so we can definitely get on the ball about it.
I think we need to. Thank you for suggesting that.
Ms. LaChance, would you mind scheduling with the board to find an available opportunity?
And there was one other document that I didn't refer to that was also put in your packet at the last minute, and that's just the percentage of increase in salaries. That is actually a percentage of increase. There was some of the other document you received actually is ratios, not percentage increase, and it also shows the percentage increase for teachers. We are a wealthy district, and we pay everybody, with the exception of beginning teachers, pretty darn well.
All right. Nothing further. We'll go ahead and move into the board chair report. As far as announcements, we have Monday, August 22nd, when our teachers return to school. Monday, August 29th is the first day of the 2016-17 school year.
Kids are back.
Monday, September 5th, Labor Day, no school, and our next regular August board meeting is Tuesday, September 13th.
September board meeting.
Yeah, September, sorry about that. Regular September. Okay, as far as our Zone 3 vacancy, the timeline that we discussed at our last board meeting. Let's see. Applicant letters are due to Ms. Amanda LaChance by the 16th of September. The 20th of September, we have scheduled a appointment meeting at 6 p.m. where we will interview and hopefully make a decision. If we do not reach consensus at that meeting, we have, if we do reach consensus, we'll swear the new trustee in at the regular October meeting on the 11th. The 12th, Amanda will notify the state superintendent. And then the 12th of October also is the end of that 90-day appointment period that we have within the zone. If we do not have someone appointed within the zone in that 90-day, we have 30 days within the entire district. And that appointment would likely be at the November 8th board meeting. By November 12th, that would end the 120-day appointment period. And if no decision is made by then it will go to the county commissioners to make that decision. And hopefully by the December board meeting, have a fifth member be able to be sworn in at that time. So that is the kind of the timeline and the scope. We do have 2 letters of application as of yet, as far as I understand, and look forward to those interviews in the special meeting on the 20th of September. Any questions or comments regarding the timeline?
So we're looking at a full board, best potential probably 1st of 2017 on this current timeline, conceivably.
Worst case scenario is December. Best case scenario is October.
October. Is there any way we can expedite once the application period's over? Can we compress anything in there? I think it would be great to have 5 people. I think having 4 is really I think you'd all agree 4 is challenging, and it's led to deadlocks and inaction, and it would be great just to have a full board so that action items can be actioned. I don't know what leeway we have to tighten this up, but it just seems like it's going to go on forever.
I'm okay with the timeline. I feel that, we have to make sure we get the right applicant in, and, these are guidelines that are set out, so I'm still good with them.
I was going to say, I think this is as per Idaho code, as far as the 90-day
Timeline.
and 120-day, those timelines. You can shorten it within those windows of opportunity, much like we're not extending clear till the 12th of October to have that interview process. So we're shortening that up by three weeks, almost a month. So we are trying to jump on it and get a resolution sooner than later. But before it goes to the county commissioners, I think that's set in Idaho code.
Well, it's wonderful we have applicants, right? I mean, there has been history of no applicants for quite some extended period of time.
Correct.
I think that's how I got here. So it's like, that is great. We have some people of interest.
All right. With no further discussion, we'll go ahead and move forward with the discussion items. And under continuing business, we have draft policy 502.12, gender inclusion. Included in your packets were the original 502.12 draft policy, the updated draft policy that we asked staff to update and reach out to MSBT to give their legal opinion on those policy updates, as well as some comments, public comments received on that gender inclusion policy. And I'll go ahead and open it up for discussion at this time.
I'd just like to thank everybody for their hard work on it. It's definitely not been easy. And it's not been easy for the community to take this on and deal with it, I guess. I don't even know how to put that in better words, but it's been difficult, I know. So.
And I would actually like to piggyback on that. There's been a tremendous amount of work, of time, of thought put in. I appreciate all those who came to make public comments tonight, took time out of their busy schedules to share their feelings with us as a board, share their concerns, or share their affirmations of the current policy or the proposed policies. This is an item that really affects all of us. Hits us deeply at the core on multiple levels. It's not one that should be taken rashly, but should be well thought out and have the implications on both sides. Considered, thought about, talked about. I want to appreciate thank those who shared those comments with us. So, any comments, Trustee Clayton?
Yeah, that was my first thing, was just to thank everybody who came forward tonight and the last couple of meetings to share their heartfelt feelings about this new territory, right? Like, moving into the future, changing things, doing things that have never been done before is probably the hardest thing for anyone to swallow and accept on both sides. And so this is a really, really challenging decision for us as an entity. And I think that we need to be very careful in how we manage and move forward with this and how we manage and move forward with this. But at the same time, I think we have to look at the future, and I think we have to look at the world as a whole. We have to look at everyone's feelings. We have to look at also being tolerant. And tolerance is something that is really, really critical at this juncture in time, I believe, within our nation as a whole. And I think not being tolerant and understanding other people and what other people are about is a really, really dangerous place to go. And I feel and sense those sentiments on a daily basis. And I have to look to myself and my feelings of inclusiveness and tolerance as we move forward with this. And that's kind of where I stand with it. And I know it's hard. It's really hard. But we didn't get to sit in these chairs because it's easy. So there you go.
Further discussion?
I don't know. I almost feel like I'm not ready to make a decision tonight. I feel like I've heard a lot of both sides, and I do want to move forward at the same time. I just feel very conflicted. It's something that where, first this was about transgender, but now we're hearing about all sorts of different sides, and I think that we do need to put something out there for all students. And I feel like this policy does it, but yet I kind of feel like I just want to table it just to think on it, just to, if this is what we want to go forward with, Hearing about lawsuits, I want to look at further legal liability issues, if we have covered all those issues, or what kind of issues we might be looking at. I don't know. I don't know if... I feel like this is a very comprehensive plan for all students, but I don't know. I feel that we need to look at more issues, such as legal liability, but I don't know if that's covered in this policy. I don't know if we are covering any liability issues. I know that I hear parents' concerns about students being exposed to the other sex, but literally, I know that doesn't help in elementary schools for sure. That does not happen there. Middle schools, I don't know what the locker rooms look like. I don't know what it looks at the high school. I don't know if other students are being exposed to other students, their nudity. I know that there's changing rooms. It's totally different from when I was in high school. So what do our high schools and our middle school locker rooms look like? What are the chances of exposure? Where are our students? I know our students have privacy rights. I hear that, I understand that, I know that. And students are going to walk in there if they are transgender and they're a girl and they walk in to the girls' room. That's what they are. They're a girl, Not everybody's going to know that. And I don't know. This is a very difficult issue.
And I think that some of what you've brought up ties back to some of the comments made about the understanding the cost of this to our district as well. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Holmes, but if we move towards this and if we move towards individual changing rooms and individual locker stalls, individual bathroom stalls, that would be a significant cost to the district to remodel.
It would be a cost to the district, but I don't think that's the basis on which you make this decision.
Agreed.
And if you would like to see the locker rooms, let's do it in the next week before the kids come back. It'd be a great time to take a tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
I don't have an issue passing it. I don't know. I feel like this is something more complicated than...
I do think the expression has been made at this table in the previous board meeting about trying to protect all students, which sooner or later leads us down the road of remodeling locker rooms and bathrooms anyway. So
yeah,
make your decision based on what is best for keeping all of our kids safe and secure, and we'll worry about the money later. We just saved $1 million. No, I'm just being facetious.
No, I would tend to agree that we need to do what's right. How do we protect the safety, security? And this is a policy. And then once a policy, if a policy is passed, then
it's my problem.
Then it becomes, as Dr. Holmes said, it's up to the procedures of how that policy is implemented, and what are the exact ramifications of that. And I'd be interested to hear what some of the plans might be as far as how those procedures are created, as far as involvement with input from all stakeholders or input from all sides. so that proper procedures can be put in place as well.
Would you like to try to arrange with Mr. Royal and our secondary administrators just a walkthrough so you can see how it could possibly be feasible? Or does that help?
I was going to say, I'm fairly comfortable with how the locker rooms look. I know.
You've had your tour?
Yeah.
I'll go for that.
Okay.
No problem. It's been a long time since I've been in a locker room, so it's not like I'm in there on a frequent basis, not even women or men's locker rooms. So, all right.
So we'll get a date.
Okay. Any further discussion at this time?
I don't have any.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward with item number 2, future of Finance Committee. We briefly discussed this at our last board meeting and had it on for further discussion at this time.
Well, I would say that the Finance Committee, from my perspective, is withering away, and we're not gaining any interest. I think that we've had resignations with no step-ups to become members of that committee, so I'm not sure what the future viability of it is, so I don't really know why we have it.
My feeling on the financial committee is it's a great concept. I actually think that maybe something that might help the finance committee is actually looking at our bills ahead of time, that, are before they're spent. We're looking past tense, what has already been spent, not future expenditures or what's coming up. And if we were able to change that to say, okay, this is what's coming up, or these are projected, because our bills that we approve is what's been spent. It's it's kind of hard to go back and question that when it's already been done. And if we're able to do that in advance, to give that stamp, that rubber stamp on that expenditure before it was done, so there's more control by us than just saying, nope, it's approved because it was already done. How do you go back and say, I'm sorry, I would like to really question that expenditure when it's already after the fact?
Well, in effect, we actually do approve that, because we do approve a budget, and we do hold the administration accountable to the budget that we approve. And when they overstep the budget, then that comes on to our purview as the fiduciaries to, first of all, say why, what. We do get those monthly reports. We do know how we're functioning, actual to projected, so we do have that understanding. And that should really be the level of our concern with the day-to-day expenditures of what goes on within the operation of the entire district. I mean, we have the ultimate responsibility that we set the revenue, we set the expenditures, and we oversee that those are met, and hopefully come in under what was projected as expense. That is a successful management of a business. So, as the managers of a business, I think that's really where we need to be looking. Where does the Finance Committee fit into that? Do we really need to be under the hood and checking, okay, they were able to buy gas at $2.20. They should have really got it for $2.19 6. That's a savings of $35,000 over a year. Do we need to do that? I mean, that's really, here's your budget for gas, make your budget for gas. That's what we anticipate. Those are our assumptions. That's what you need to do. So if we have no trust, then we'll say we have to cross-reference every expenditure. What's this, what's this, what's this, what's this? Whereas if we say you're doing great, you're on budget, you're on task, we trust you in your work, that's leading to a healthy and good system, I think, for the entire district. That would be my view of it.
I would tend to agree that our purview should be more at the budgeting timeline. I'm not going to approve every light bulb that's bought. I mean,
Well, I don't want to approve every light bulb that's bought, but sometimes there's things that it's good to
the
know
expenditures of like a bus or something like that you should know. And a lot of those expenditures are still brought back to us, even though they go through the budgeting process. They're still brought back to us for that final approval, whether it be for the buses or whether it be for textbook adoption or whatever those larger purchases are. Those are still brought back to us during the year for board approval prior
That's
to
required by statute.
prior to purchase. I feel that if we were to try and approve every expense before the expense was made, honestly, I don't think that's feasible.
And I guess actually, let me jump in on that one. That's actually where we should be doing our due diligence, is in that budgeting process, right? Rather than just saying, okay, that looks great, let's drill down. That's the time to drill down, because that's when you're saying, okay, what's this, and this? I mean, that's kind of where we are now. Got this administrative conundrum, right? We looked at that, we rolled back the lid, we saw, oh my God, this is all over the map, we got to fix that. Ooh, we did that actually at too late of a juncture. That should have been done in December, right? And I think that came to our attention in April or May. Fiscal year begins July 1st, it's too late, right? So really, if that attention to detail, from our perspective, needs to happen at that juncture versus post-purchase, right? We should really be drilling down and saying, okay, you want $3 million for X. Where's that $3 million going? Exactly. Boom, 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 boom. That's really, I believe, our responsibility. And does the finance committee help with that? I don't know. I mean, kind of falls on our shoulders. I don't. We can have them. We can't have them. I'm totally ambivalent about their. I had no interaction with them, and everything I got from them really didn't do much for me, to be quite honest, in my short time.
Further discussion or comment? All right. Next up is the strategic plan review. And there is an updated memo bookmarked. Is there any questions, comments, discussion at this time?
Do you want us to give you our song and dance?
Sure.
Okay, we've got some folks that are going to help share while Mr. Pierce is coming for Goal 1. I just want to point out one more time, because I'm really proud of this. Maybe, I don't know if you guys understand the significance of this, but I've worked with many, many strategic plans over my life. And those strategic plans are always have very academic goals in them. And this plan is completely different than anything I've ever worked with before, but it is incredibly exciting because we have multiple data points. We still have academic data points, but we have a lot of other data points, and we have goals that are more than just academics. With our goals of inspiring, engaging, educating, and empowering all of our kids, it's a much more holistic plan than I've ever worked with before, and I think that Blaine County should be very proud of themselves for that. You've got the nitty-gritty detail on everything that happened this year, but some big things that happened was getting the metrics and baselines in place, focusing on inspiring our students, getting that ball up in the air, increasing our attendance, and then continuing to build that academic structure that supports a rigorous and aligned curriculum for all of our students, not just for the students in that track. And so at this time, we'll have each of the 4 goals. We'll just highlight some major accomplishments and next steps, and of course then you can read all the details. So Mr. Pierce, you want to talk to us about Goal 1?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. And to our board, welcome to the 2016-17 school year as we are about to begin. So the endeavor continues with our strategic plan, and this evening I am referencing Goal 1, and of course you have that information in front of you. The Goal 1 is to inspire all our students and develop intellectual curiosity by 2020 through meaningful opportunities. The measures that were used were the student survey, which was the engagement and curiosity survey. This was a first-time use of this survey and was given in spring of 2016. And the other metric that we used was the school climate survey that is given to our parents. And in each of these cases, and you have the outcomes here, but I want to go ahead and reference it for those that don't have the information. The overall curiosity dimension was a 3.01 out of a 4-point scale. And more specific to the question, my classes are interesting, is a 2.91 out of a 4-point scale. So that was our baseline data in that particular assessment. In our school climate survey, the two items I identified in the inspiration model was the classroom activities keep my child interested in the learning. And then for that, the 2015-16 identified 80% as the agreed or strongly agreed in that category as compared to the 2014-15, which was 81% agreed or strongly agreed. The second item was my child is excited to go to school, and in 2015-16, a 76% agree or strongly agree as compared to the 14-15, 77% agreed or strongly agreed. So we're in a very comparable level in that particular assessment, but still shows that we have some room to grow. And to the slide that you have for the Goal 1 and Inspire, the four main objectives are purposeful and meaningful experiences, and we've measured that through community partnership and community service. Where Objective 2 is developing the positive culture on our campuses, and dealing with that are the areas that we're focusing towards are student-teacher relationships, our teacher-administrator relationships, student-student relationships, and teacher-teacher relationships. So clearly, the school culture is around developing just the overall enhancing relationships and environment on our campuses. Objective number 3 is the student autonomy and creativity, and the areas of reflection there are enhancing the student and teacher autonomy, reflective practices, and development through professional development. And then our Objective 4 is our outdoor education, and that is investigating our outdoor learning programs and options, and evaluating what our current realities are, and continuing to explore our community partners. So the accomplishments this year we feel have been very good in this area, and inspiration is a tough one to measure sometimes, and so I think it's important that as we have, I think we've just kind of cracked the door on this one so that we can start to really look and begin to develop that. So that's where we started in creating a school-wide focus on inspiring students by getting to know our students. Encouraging our teachers to bring the fun and creativity back to our classrooms. We had some opportunities with our Ken Robinson Challenge and viewing the Beyond Measure and posting all of the pieces on our Google community. If you had the opportunity to capture some of what we are seeing every day in that community, it became a competition between schools. So it's really great that we've had that opportunity. The initial professional development and restorative practices for our secondary admin, which was initially implemented at Silver Creek. Implementing the school-wide advisory curriculum at Wood River High School to address social emotional learning as well as college and career readiness. We implemented this year the Teacher Advisory Committee to provide the superintendent with teacher voice and input in making decisions. We implemented a student engagement survey this year for the curiosity domain component. Facilitated an empathy group, student group at Wood River High School to develop student leadership to eliminate the hazing activities. Established a gay-straight alliance for secondary students, and conducted an inventory of current outdoor learning programs within the district. So we have some next steps that we're looking forward to while we will continue to develop these current accomplishments and see what we can do to bolster them. We also have some of our next steps to continue. Finishing the teacher and advisory and the district leadership team working to align the grading practices to including a plan on how to implement needed changes. Implement peer monitoring at the Wood River High School with our 9th grade and 11th grade students. Hold community partner fair and exhibit to educate staff on all the possibilities for connecting learning to inspiring experiences. Refine the implementation of restorative practices with Silver Creek. And identify Keystone Outdoor Opportunity Experiences programs that all students can access at specific grade levels, and develop that curriculum and units for each Keystone experience and develop plans for implementation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think engaged is that you, Mr. Peters? I just want to stop the rumor here, though. I've already heard that last year we were working on Inspiring, and Inspiring is out and Engage is in this year. No, Inspiring is still in. It's like juggling. You get one in the air, and now you try to get the other one in the air, but you can't let them fall to the ground. Because Inspiring is really, like Mr. Pierce said, getting to know each of our students very personally, and what are their interests, what are their passions, and how do we connect that.
And I want to ditto and thank you, board members, for allowing me to present tonight. I want to ditto what Dr. Holmes just said, is that if kids are being educated and they're empowered, that means they're also engaged and often inspired during part of their day. Goal 2 is about engagement, and it's all students will be engaged actively in our learning community by 2020 through relevant and real-life experiences. One of the things that we've been working on is this next week we'll be hosting an all-district welcome back, and I know the board members, some of them, you'll be there as well. And one of the things that we're doing there is really focusing on the why of learning. So that's a huge part of what we're working on this year. Is we want to make sure that teachers are working in their lesson plans to communicate the why to students of why this is important to learn, not just expecting them to learn it, but really focusing on the relevancy of it. One of our focuses this last year was to look at our measures of student engagement. One of them was attendance rates, and our attendance did increase relatively enough to where we got a big bonus from the state of almost $600 and some thousand. And it went up by 2 full percentage points, which is a good increase, and we need to keep going with that. We've been working with our organizations, our clubs, and many individual students by name so that we can know them and see what their attendance problems are. And we still have definite room to grow in our attendance because we are a little bit below the state of Idaho, so we want to keep working on that. If students are coming to school, we feel that that is a measure of their engagement as well. Graduation is another one, and we had a 3.5% increase in our graduation rate. This is based on a 4-year cohort, not a senior year, which was the old measurement. So that's a good, solid increase, and we hope that that continues to go all the way up towards 100%. And one of the things we want to work on is making sure that as students are leaving middle school and getting into high school, that we're measuring their path towards graduation and making sure they're on task. A couple of other things that we're doing this fall is, as administrators and eventually with our staff, we're coming up with what are the indicators of engagement. Can we go into a classroom as teachers and administrators and look at what's going on and say, yes, those students are engaged, or are we seeing that kids are very compliant? There's a big difference there. So we're really trying to measure that fine difference. And we know that kids cannot be engaged for the full 7 periods a day, every single second, but are we seeing a generally engaging classroom, or are we seeing a classroom where kids are definitely doing the work, or are we seeing all the way down on another spectrum of outright rebellion, where they're just not even wanting to participate at all? So there is some really good studies that we've been looking at to see what engagement actually is. One of Dr. Holmes' favorite quotes is, when kids are working in groups, especially at the elementary, and they're really into it, you'll see a lot of butts in the air because they're down on their table, they're working together closely, and they're focused on what they're doing. Another indicator that we're looking at is, are kids extending beyond the classroom? Are they talking about what they're learning? Are they wanting to do it on their own time? Are they developing projects and taking them further than they would just to meet what they have to do for a grade? So in conjunction with engagement, we're also talking about grading. And we don't want grading to be the carrot that's always in front of the student. We want grading to enhance students and not just be doing something for the grade, but for the love of learning and for the love of the topic. So another objective you'll see on the slide there, beyond measuring engagement, is also student voice and choice. If students have voice and choice, and if teachers really get to know students and offer them interests that they are going to be more engaged in, then we have the chance of increasing that engagement because they're working on something that they love and that they are very interested in. So we want to work towards lessons that allow kids to study and focus on areas that they want to for part of their day. That's that voice and choice that's so critical in today's educational world, because they have that in the rest of their life, especially with their digital world. Real-world experience is another key goal up there, where we're trying to tie things to how they actually help you in the world, and that's a big part of it. Why? Why is math important? Well, math can help you if you want to be an architect. Math can help you if you want to be a cook. Math can help you in almost any profession you're going to want to aspire to, as well as any other subject. So we're using math in our music classes, we're using math in our tech classes, we're using English in our social studies and science classes as well. And then lastly, the fourth objective is the relevance of learning experiences, and that's the key point that we're really trying to focus on this year, is actually having the teachers work to plan that why as a kickoff to every lesson, and actually look at their lesson plans and see where they can fit in that why, and not just say, okay, I've told you why you need to learn this, but revisiting that throughout the course of a unit or even a whole, a whole semester, to make sure that they're focusing on that.
And saying it's on the test is not irrelevant. Why?
Or learning it because I told you so. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Henson's going to talk to us about Goal 3, which is educate, and this is the one goal which we are proposing adding an objective to.
Yes, education, it's what we do. And you can see in your board packets the scope of what has been done in this district is absolutely mind-boggling, and I just want to say that it's extremely impressive, and it's due to the caliber of the staff that you have working for you, and not just the staff, but the community partners that we have, the parents and their voice that participate in this, our community in general. We are very fortunate to live where we do. So just from all of the different objectives and stuff, we went through and selected some of the highlights that we just wanted to talk and mention today. We developed integrated project-based learning frameworks for the elementary curriculum. And through that, our 4th and 5th grade teachers began that process and developed their curriculum units. We developed a K-12 math curriculum, which included a compacted grade 5-6 math curriculum to prepare students for advanced opportunities in middle school. We upgraded creative curriculum assessments and resources for our preschool classrooms. We revised our homework policy. We expanded co-teaching model to include additional general education teachers in all of our schools, and most of that was just word of mouth. Teachers wanted to be part of that process, so they asked to join. We didn't have to go out and seek their participation. We trained additional staff in academic language acquisition using the WIDA model. We increased the number of Hispanic students enrolling in and successfully completing AP and dual credit classes at high school. We facilitated development of individual building professional development plans to meet the specific needs of each of our schools, rather than trying to fit our schools into a larger model. They're now very school specific. Implemented new Tier 2 and Tier 3 math and English language arts intervention materials. We implemented a new GATE screening and identification system based on multiple data points, including non-language dependent measures. Includes the COGAT-7 screener, which is given in 1st grade. Facilitated Title I school-wide application and approval for Title I schools to replace targeted assistance schools. That happened in Bellevue, Alturas, and Cary. School-wide status allows schools to integrate supports and provide supports to any and all students, whereas in a targeted program, you could only focus on a very specific group of students. Increased participation of Spanish-speaking parents. Their voice is very important in our community, and we are making huge efforts to make sure that that voice is heard. We had a financial plan meeting, a state of the district, and an advanced opportunity supports meeting, which was conducted entirely in Spanish. We upgraded our STAR reading and our STAR math assessments to the newest versions available to provide more item analysis data for instructional planning. And we implemented our new IELA for Access state assessment to measure acquisition of English by second language learners. I think what you can see is that we are attacking every single student and making sure that every one of our students' progress and what they have available to them is appropriate and pushes them to the limits that we expect of them. Our next steps really are focusing on the achievement gap, increasing our students in advanced opportunities, especially at the elementary and middle school level. We often look at how amazing Blaine County does in comparison to other districts around the state. But what we do know is that we have an achievement gap, and we want to make sure that we are addressing that. Dr. Holmes has been the #1 charge in that effort, which is fantastic. We will continue to develop where we did 4-5 curriculum last year. Our second and third grade teachers will be working on that this year. We're going to finalize the work of the Secondary Education Task Force to bring our secondary course of study recommendations to you in regard to how that will proceed. All of our math teachers will be piloting our new curriculums that we've selected, the 2 curriculums that we selected throughout this year to make a choice for our new adoption. Development procedures to support the new homework policy, continue training additional staff and supporting language acquisition of students by using WIDA, implement partnerships with Boise State University and to support general education teachers in becoming ENL endorsed. 21 of us will be participating in that.
And ENL endorsed means?
They are getting a certification in English as a new language and how to support students in their classrooms. Support implementation of individual building professional development plans. So we've already met with our district leadership teams. They've come into the schools, met with the principals, and we've started the process of how the district level can support our administration level in our schools in their professional development plans. We will implement those Title I school-wide models that we all transitioned to at the end of last year. We're going to continue to develop our GATE curriculum. We will develop a plan to provide the supports needed as identified by parents in the Advanced Opportunity Meeting. We intend to review district-wide common literacy assessments for the elementary grades. That should be happening this fall to look at our common assessments and decide if we want to keep them or move to or modify them in some way. Provide to each school support in the understanding and using data from district-wide assessments. Really looking at data and having our teachers understand how this particular data point on this assessment and this assessment and this assessment all link, and they can use that data in a way that they are able to set appropriate goals and objectives in their classroom. And we will are hoping that we can add a 6th objective to Goal 3 because we didn't feel like we had enough, to improve the Blaine County School District English Language Development Program, which is our Title III program, to support English language learners and increase their academic success and language growth, to close the achievement gap in alignment with state and federal guidelines.
Okay. And our last one, but not least, is empowering all of our students. This really goes to the social emotional learning.
Or, as I like to think, it goes to the heart of the matter. So, can you imagine all those things that we've already done? Let me add just a little bit more to what we've been doing to work on our independent positive choices for our students so that they can continue to develop socially and emotionally. We've already had our first mental health first aid trainers. In fact, they have trained over 150 of our staff so far this year. We're going to be working with the bus drivers next week and continue to do some of that training throughout the rest of this year. Let's see. We have an advisory curriculum that's working on our social emotional learning at the high school level. But I think one of the most exciting things that we've done is working with the secondary teams to develop social emotional standards. Now, right now in Idaho, there are no SEL, social emotional learning standards. It's coming our way, but we're on the forefront of that. And it was very exciting to see the teams come together and work on that. I expect that this next fall, you will also be seeing that come your way, so you can take a look at the good work they've been doing. And to go along with that, for this next year, it means that we're going to look at how do we use those standards? How do we put them in place in our schools? We'll take a look at the high school. What are they doing in advisory? How does it match the standards? We'll see how we get those things in place at Cary with Leader in Me. Thanks. And how it's going to be integrated into Silver Creek with restorative justice, and how it works with our curriculum already at the middle school. Lori Strand's going to continue to work on her refining her substance abuse program and working with our kids there. And I think that's about it. You will notice that in our measures, last year we had 9 expulsion hearings, as you well know because you attend those. This past year we only had 3. So I think that's a good place to be. Any questions?
I want to just make sure the board understands what Youth Mental Health First Aid is. It's a day-long training that provides, think about CPR. If none of us are heart doctors, I don't think there's any in here, but if somebody's having a heart attack, hopefully we know how to respond while we are calling 911 and getting help there. So mental health first aid is much the same way. And every staff in every person in our district will want to have this training. So if you're the bus driver greeting the kids in the morning, taking them home at night, you're the classroom teacher, the secretary, whoever, if a child is having a crisis or is having some difficulty, first of all, we recognize it, and secondly, we know how to go and get help for them, because we're not all mental health therapists, but we can certainly recognize it and we can certainly get help.
So we have 2 social workers that are doing that work for us in the district. You are invited to attend any one of those sessions. We'll make sure that you know when those trainings are going to be. It's an 8-hour training. Sometimes it's done over 2 4-hour days.
Okay, so then we have a recommendation to you that will come up later under the action items to approve updating the strategic plan, specifically adding that goal, that objective 6 under goal 3.
Just a little curiosity about the suspensions. It went up 25%.
Suspensions went up 25%. They maybe did.
The 14-15 years or the 15-16 years.
Marcia, you help me with this, but I think probably what is really happening is improved accuracy in data tracking. We had some schools that entered data and some that didn't. And we had a big powwow about how we could enter data not in a way that would linger on a kid's record and harm them in the future, but how we could also accurately track. And we had we still have ongoing conversations in that area. So at this point, if it continues to go that way, yeah, let's panic. But at this point, I think it's just trying to clean up accuracy in reporting, because we had some schools that reported nothing the previous year when, you know, that wasn't really what happened.
Okay.
Further questions, comments?
I would add that a 66% reduction in expulsions is quite successful.
That's good.
Having to
That's
have
a good thing.
those hearings, so that's really, really a good metric, a serious metric. That's the worst thing we do.
I would agree. All right. No further discussion. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 4, the board retreat objectives. We decided to add this to the agenda, talk about it a little bit after our last board meeting. We currently do not have a code of ethics in place. We were going to be looking at that possibly in our board retreat. One of the options that Trustee Corker put out there was to, was it the Aspen group, do a training. Ms. LaChance looked into that for us, and that is a 5-day, very intensive
$50,000
investment, and
They guarantee we leave ethical?
so I would,
5 days.
with the turnover that we've had on the board, I personally don't feel that that would be a prudent investment by the district.
How much was it again?
Time, I think $50,000.
$50,000, 5 days. They do not do overviews or introductions. You either sign on or they don't take you.
All in or nothing?
All in or nothing.
So
you chose not to do that. Thank you.
We brought it back to the board table to discuss, but my recommendation is, going back to last month's board meeting, would still be to either choose the Idaho State School Boards Association, or Elaine Eberhardt Mackey does some of these trainings on governance and ethics. And I would recommend that we have a one-day training on that government and ethics, and have that be our primary focus for that day or day and a half long training. I think if we try to get too much more on top of that, you're going to be trying to pack too much in too short a time and not have the time to really go into the depth for the discussions that we potentially could have as a board. So, are there any other thoughts, comments, or any other objectives that you guys would see as prudent for that board retreat?
No, I think that's important. I mean, I'm relatively uncomfortable functioning without a code of ethics, signed code of ethics as a group. I think we have a big responsibility, and we should be signed off on a standard that we should be adhering to. So, thoughts, Trustee Bustos?
Ready to do the retreat when we can get that on our schedule.
Okay. We'll task Ms. LaChance with another, trying to find another meeting date for us to be able to have that. We were unable to do that after the last month's meeting. Hopefully we'll be able to after this month. So, all right. On to new business. We have a few draft policies. Draft policy 849, personal reimbursements. 846, travel allowance. 868, use of district or school district charge cards. 869, cash on hand. 854, cancellation of checks. 862, signature authority for activity checks. 852, issuance of checks. And 502.2, administering medications. We've had those in our board packets. Are there any questions, comments for Mr. Blackman at this time, or any discussion?
I have a comment. I think that from policy 849 down through 852, that the fact that we're actually having policy regarding all of those different functions for the first time in the history of the school district is pretty good fiscal management. I think that those did not exist previously till these were put in place, and the fact that we're doing that now, God bless us, because I think those are things that should be watched out for.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you all.
And just with a note, that 502.2, that is coming down from the state, and we must have it approved on or before September 1st to be compliant with Idaho code. So that brings us to, if there's no further discussion at this time, that brings us to our second section of public comment. And the only one that I've received is Shannon Robertson.
I'm Shannon Robertson, and I'm here to speak about the gender inclusion policy. I'm spending this week packing to head off to college, but I still get to see my friends here eagerly sending each other schedules and group chats and trying to coordinate. And they're excited to be back, and, well, for the most part, but a few of them have additional things on their shopping list besides pencils and notebooks. I know the excitement of buying baggy plaid shirts to hide fuller than desired chests. And 2 years ago, I had the fortune of being assumed not female, which lasted maybe a day or two before we were split into two groups, boys on this side, girls on the other. And now this teacher was like a pretty accepting guy. And could I have emailed him ahead of class and asked him for some kind of accommodation for non-binary identity? Probably. But I didn't know him at this point, and the last thing I needed was a negative reaction, because what if he refused? I would have just about died. And I wanted to advocate for myself, so I could have spent class time learning instead of loathing the looming threat of gender-based groups for discussion. But where was the rule that said he had to go out of his way to make me comfortable? And the teachers at Blaine County School District are good teachers, and mostly good people. But coming out and saying, I do not feel like a boy or girl, and I need you to be conscientious of that, and stop splitting the class into groups based on being a boy or a girl, was not something I felt comfortable doing. Because being trans is as much a responsibility as an identity, and I ended up being expected to talk about trans issues and know everything about laws and health care. And the second I tell someone I'm transgender, it's expected that I be a spokesperson for trans people, and it is exhausting. I shouldn't be expected to give an entire dissertation about bathroom laws just because they affect me. But I choose to come out and advocate when I can and when I feel comfortable, because I care about the people who are constantly in danger. And we are all in danger just for being what we are, whether it be death threats or being told we'll never be seen as anything but our designated birth gender. We are in danger of being hurt physically as much as emotionally. And I know that everyone isn't out to hurt me, and some of them truly do not understand, but this policy gives them a reason to. And it would have backed me up in feeling safer about asking for accommodation. And it can still help someone who has yet to graduate, and I hope that it will. We have less than a month till school starts, and our students need this to be comfortable and not spend school days wanting to die. And I empathize with the fear of violation of privacy, but locker rooms have private stalls, and so do bathrooms. Privacy is there if you look for it, and how many trans kids have to look for it? Are non-trans people going to have to work to feel comfortable? Yes, that's what trans people do all the time. And at least you'll get to do it in a bathroom that supports your gender identity. It's easy to fall back on indecision, so please don't.
Thank you for your comment. All right, that brings us to the action portion of the agenda. And we have item A, the consent agenda. We have consideration of minutes of the regular July meeting, July 12th, 2016. Acceptance of monthly financial report, payment of bills, application for study travel by student group Wood River High School Mountain Bike Club, Joel Zellers, and consideration of personnel exiting and entering. And Ms. LaChance, would you please share that?
Classified staff. Exiting, Lori Rady, Secretary at Wood River Middle School, John Rady, Athletic Director at Wood River High School, Dale Martin, Athletic Assistant, Wood River High School, Valerie Olson, Weekend Custodian, Community Campus, Pamela Grant, Paraprofessional, Haley, Tammy Deagle, Librarian Paraprofessional at Alturas, retiring August 31st, 2016, Rosa Segura, Paraprofessional at Alturas, Chan Luong, Custodian at Wood River High School, retiring on 6/30/2016. Recommending for hire, Gabrielle Bryant, ENL Paraprofessional at Wood River Middle School, Natalie Miranda, Paraprofessional at Haley. Certified staff exiting, Nicole Cahill, 1.0 FTE Kindergarten Teacher at Haley. Certified staff recommending for hire, contingent on receipt of all required documentation, Rosa Segura, 1.0 FTE Dual Immersion Spanish Kindergarten Teacher at Alturas Elementary.
All right. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as stated.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. On to item B, consideration of bid award recommendation for the sale of bus. Turn the time over to Rex Squires.
As you may recall, we had some interesting circumstances around our bid process last time. We have gone back out to bid, and we do have obviously viable bids that you can see. It's recommended that Northside Bus Company in Jerome be awarded the bid for the purchase of the bus that we're selling for the amount of $8,826.
Do I hear a motion?
I move we sell the bus to Northside Bus Company.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thanks for going back out to bid with the interesting circumstances after last month. Next item is the consideration of bid award for the purchase of district fuel for the 2016-17 school year.
This is again one of those weird situations that does occasionally come up. We did have a bid opening scheduled, but we had no viable bid or no bids come in. In following up with the people that are our current providers, we tried to determine, what was amiss that they were not able to provide a bid. through some medical issues at their facility and company and approval process, they were not able to provide that to us on the timeline that we had asked for. And so they were not able to provide that bid. Consequently, at the same time, the government agencies here in the Haley and Blaine County area have been working on a joint fuel purchasing plan and trying to pool all of our purchasing together to see if we can gain some more savings for the government agencies. That has been completed or is in the process of being completed. The vendor that has been contacted from the county agencies is interested in also including us in that process, and they've not told me what the information is, but they've told me that it is more of a benefit for the district for them to offer that package to us as well. And so in order for us to take advantage of that, we do need to reopen our bid process again so that they can submit that and get that into us, and then we'll be able to have those additional savings.
Any questions, comments?
What's the timeline on that?
We would have that for the next board meeting for your approval.
So you need approval first to open the process again. All right. I'll go ahead and call for a motion at this time.
I move we authorize Mr. Squires to rebid out the fuel contracts, or whatever you said you had to do with them.
Perfect.
Good.
That works.
Okay.
That works.
It's a very technical motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. On to item D. Rex, you love to stay up here.
You want to put them together. There we go.
Consideration of bus routes, non-transportation zones, authorized backing areas, and safety busing. And this is required as per law as well.
Correct. This is a housekeeping process that we have to do each August, as is required by Idaho Code. We constantly are in the process of reviewing our bus routes, our backing locations, where we transport students, that kind of thing. And we have to have approval from you to basically start the year. So this is that housekeeping process. Just as a note, on the safety busing areas, I sent part of last year's memo and part of this year's memo, and it didn't really make a lot of sense. And so I've provided to you a hard copy with the recommendations for the safety busing areas. Just for your information, in the numbers that we submit to the state, this provides back to the district approximately $325,000 over the course of a year for support of our transportation program. So.
All right. Any questions, comments? I'll call for a motion.
Okay. So I move that we will approve the non-transportation zones, authorized backing areas, and safety busing presented by Mr. Squires.
And bus routes.
And bus routes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Next up for consideration is the consideration of a student teaching placement under the direction of Amy Backus, kindergarten teacher, and Christina Hoos, second grade teacher at Bellevue Elementary during the 2016-17 school year. Any questions, comments? Call for a motion at this time.
I move that we approve this student teacher. Teachers.
Second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Next up is approval of the updated strategic plan. Open it up for discussion or call for motion.
appreciate the work that was done in the last year, and I would make a motion to approve your updated strategic plan.
I'll second that.
Just for clarification purposes, that's with the addition of the Goal 6 under
Yeah.
Item 2.
Goal 3, Objective 6, correct.
Okay. Motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item G, review and approval of tax levy certification. Is there any questions, comments of that? Once again, it's a housekeeping item that's required to be done. Any questions or comments? Call for a motion at this time, then.
I make a motion to approve the tax levy certification. Good.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. On to item H, consideration of Blaine County School District Draft Policy 502.12, Gender Inclusion. I'll open it up for discussion or call for motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to accept draft policy 502.12.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Can you just clarify for me which draft, the original or
No,
The revised.
most current revision of that policy drafted, not the last one that we received.
Okay. Motion, second. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries 2-1. And item I, consideration of Blaine County School District Draft Policy 502.2, administering medications.
Make a motion to pass draft policy 502.2.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting
Aye.
adjourned at 8:16.